And hello!
Happy Friday!
Down. Happy Friday!
Please, wine down!
Yeah, you have white wine today, Gina.
I do. Just being trying to keep you on your toes. I should have it where you have to guess the wine that I have in my glass.
No, but that's not fair. That's not fair.
No,
and
that's not.
Hi, Celine. I haven't seen you in so long. Hello. Welcome.
That was a great radio interview with you too.
No, that's somebody else.
Oh, that's somebody else.
I would do a great radio interview, but no, that was Corey.
That was Corey. I thought it was Celine. Celine.
Yeah, Corey and Matt, and that was great. So, how was your week?
It was very busy. I had a lot of we were cranking out a lot of interviews for the podcast, and so that was kind of this whole week was filled with lots of videos and podcast interviews. So that was good. How about you?
Busy. We had a video shoot on Tuesday. So that was exciting, starting a new series called That's a Great Question.
I love it.
Which I love. And then we were also working on our new online program.
Very exciting.
There's that echo all of a sudden in and out, and I have no idea what that does, why that does that.
I don't either, and I don't hear it, so it's always like I can't tell.
Yeah. So welcome everybody. If you're here, say Helen. Hello, Helen. You cracked me up in the caption contest today. The "Do you want the middle seat?" Literally laughed out loud. Helen. You cracked me up. Yeah. Celine, are you? I don't think you're in the group. So yeah.
You need to join that. You need to join that group. It's fabulous. Great discussions. And
so if you're here, type hello so we can see who's here.
To me, it's always fun to know where are you tuning in from, because even Toni and I are lots of miles away. I'm here in Denver, Colorado, where it's actually gorgeous weather the last few days, and it's supposed to be really nice this weekend. So we might go skiing tomorrow.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, that would be awesome. So we're tuning in. And this week, the theme I love how our themes each week kind of gel and come to be. And this week, several different discussions led us to this topic of courage, which I love.
So, yeah, and it worked out that I did a radio interview. That's the one I did with Corey, and this was the topic. And one of the questions that I thought was really interesting, Annie from Beirut. Oh, my gosh.
Awesome.
Oh,
Annie. Hey.
Annie and I go way back. So the question that came up is, what is the definition of courage? And so I thought I'd throw that out there. I certainly shared one on the interview, and I'll be happy to share it in a minute, but I'd love to hear your opinion, Gina, and perhaps some other people out there. What do we think courage is? Like, what is it?
I know it is interesting because it is such an interesting when you really analyze what is courage. To me, it's doing something that's scary or hard, but doing it anyway.
Yes.
So I think it would be interesting to see if everyone has different definitions of what courage is. And I loved when I was listening to your interview. Hey, Bob.
Thanks.
There's different. I don't know if you'd call them levels of courage, because we summon up courage in different forms at different times, but it's always when we're facing some sort of adversity that you have to have courage to keep going and not retreat.
See, that was interesting because when I was asked the question, I don't think we have to be facing adversity to have courage. I think we make courageous decisions all the time. And Corey said, so do you have to be afraid to have courage? Like, is fear an essential element? And the more I thought about it, I thought, I don't think it's fear. When I think about courage, I think of taking a leap of faith. If whatever you're doing requires you to take a leap of faith, and I think you're right, Gina, the traditional definition of courage is we're facing adversity and we've got to kind of plow our way through.
Right.
And, but in the context of our work, we talk about being courageous in your business all the time. And so I don't know that it's necessarily adversity. It's the ability to, in our words, dare to be different, which means taking a leap of faith.
But don't you think to take a leap of faith, you have to kind of have some fear of letting go of something?
I don't know.
Because that would be interesting, because you got to go, when have I ever been courageous? When there wasn't some, I don't know if it's fear or anxiety or uncertainty, which kind of I look at as kind of a fear.
But if you're going to take a leap of faith, Gina, there has to be some kind of emotion. That's what a leap of faith is.
Yeah,
it means you stopped and said, okay, I'm going to do this. But the reason I prefer leap of faith as opposed to fear is, and a lot of people watching know this. Now, I want to come back to your comment, Ellen.
I love that. Ellen, that's interesting.
I've done a lot of crazy stuff in my life, like, leaving my law career to go work for Club Med, and then leaving Club Med on a whim because somebody said I could sing in their nightclub. And people say to me that was really courageous. And I go, I wasn't frightened, but it was a leap of faith. And so this concept of a leap of faith, I think, is what, for me, brings all of those possible circumstances when you could have courage. And then for us being outrageously courageous is that everybody would think you were off your nut. Like, everybody thinks that is just out there. Like me moving to Paris on a whim with no money and a business. Right. So that's what I think. And Elaine's definition was the place between fear and recklessness.
That's such interesting. Yeah, I do love that.
Yeah.
Because others may see you as reckless for making the decision.
Right.
And some may say, oh, you must be scared, which, like you're saying, it's not necessarily you're scared. But to me, there is some level of emotion that makes me almost want to, I have to decide, do I want to stay here or retreat? Or do I want to take that leap of faith? That's where the courage comes in. I have to have the courage to do it, because I think when we talk about our business, we all talk about wanting to do bigger things in our business. But why do some people know what to do? They know the steps to take. They know they've taken the course. They've spent the thousands of dollars to learn how, but they still don't do it.
Implement.
They don't have the courage. Yeah.
And Heidi, I love this. Sometimes courage is forced upon us. That's really interesting, Heidi, because the radio show that I did this past weekend, the two gentlemen who followed me for the second half were prostate cancer survivors. And so we talked about that. Like, they had no choice.
Right. And Heidi's a cancer survivor. So that's interesting, that perspective of, sometimes, well, look at when your spouse leaves you, and like, I was a single mom suddenly, that was forced upon me. But I don't even think, I guess now I look back and go, I was certainly courageous, but I look at it and go, I just was surviving.
But you took a leap of faith. Right. I mean, I think you had to, because when it's forced upon you and sometimes you don't have any choice. I was in a similar situation. So I think you just move ahead. Annie says courage is faith put in action. I love that one. Yeah.
Because you do have to move. Like, you can hear everything that you should do. You can know everything you can do. But until you put it into action, courage, you don't really have courage. You have knowledge of courage.
Yes. Ellen says sometimes I think it's a muscle, like going to the gym. And I think it's right. I think that's a great point too, Ellen. The more we exercise courage, and of course it's all subjective, right? Because something looks courageous to somebody else, but like you and I go, well, I don't know. I just woke up this morning and decided to kind of do this sucker. So it doesn't feel like it takes courage. And sometimes fear brings clarity. That's an absolutely great comment, Heidi, too, because sometimes
because it makes us get rid of everything else that is not important in our life right now to deal with what we're facing.
Right.
And all of a sudden it becomes crystal clear. I have to take this action. And maybe that's what, again, in business, sometimes we get to a pain point that's so great that we have to take the action. But what about the everyday courage that we say, we need to force ourselves to do things that are so outrageously different that people will think I'm nuts, and that's okay. And maybe it's not fear at that point. It's more that we put, and maybe it's that muscle, I'm going to choose to do the curls of putting myself out there and trying new things in my business because it's going to stretch and make me grow. Yeah.
And I think, again, at least for me, it goes back, because I know you're going to share some great examples and I'm going to share some great examples. And I think one of the things about courage in daring to be different and putting yourself out there in your business is, for me, if it needs to kind of keep you up at night. That doesn't mean you're not going to do it. It doesn't mean you're not excited about it. But if there hasn't been a momentary, I think I could be out of my mind. Like, I'm going to do this anyway, but I think I could be out of my mind. Then it's probably not different enough. It's not different enough. It's got to shake you up. It's got to shake the marketplace up. And I can't wait. Oh, hey, Jim, we're just going to share a couple of more comments, and then I want you to share your example. We have a lot of comments today.
Yeah, I love it.
Cancer diagnosis, I have nothing to lose, so I become more courageous. Absolutely. So Heidi, am I assuming that this is something that you have been dealing with in your life? Yes, she says.
And does a lot of work with other people to help them be courageous through it. So that's interesting.
I decided to master social media while in cancer treatment. Well, that again, that's a situation where you don't have, well, I suppose you do have a choice, but it's kind of thrust upon you. And so for those of us who haven't had to face that, we are fortunate. Jim says, welcome, Jim. Courage can also be based on principles rather than fear. Deviating from the status quo. Absolutely, Jim. It's like having the courage of your conviction. Right? Having the courage of your convictions, like the brands that decided not to do business with the NRA anymore, or you know, those people, the brands that take a stand and say, we're going to have the courage of our convictions, and this is what we're going to do. So I think
don't you also think somebody in that organization had a little bit of trepidation and fear?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I still think, that courage comes out of, I'm facing something that I'm uncertain what the outcome will be. Yeah. And maybe the fear is a fear of being rejected, fear of how people are going to view my brand or my business.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because this week I'm trying to think how I came upon her video. I think it was just on Facebook, but I happened to find, and ironically, my daughter's looking for a job and she has applied at all kinds of places. She's looking for a marketing position. Ironically, she doesn't want to work for me. I don't know why. But we keep telling her, you need to do something really bold and different. And I happened upon this girl who did the singing resume, and it's going viral. So she's been everywhere. I get to interview her next week on our podcast, and she's just a doll. But she decided to put herself out there and be so bold as to sing her cover letter. And so I wanted to share that because I thought it was a good thing to talk about courage of doing something really bold and different.
Now, can somebody just type in the comments? I've shared my screen and be live. I can see it. Gina, can you see it?
I see it as well. Next to your
head.
Just
say, yes, I can see it. So I know that it's not just Gina and I. And then I'll play the video. Someone can just let us know. Oops.
There we go.
Share a link. Share a link. We could also share the link, which.
No, I think we just click and open it and play.
Yeah, I'm going to do that, and then I will share the link. So here we go. We're not going to listen to the whole thing, but
I'm going to take the reins on this one because interviews are boring and resumes are boring, and this is fun. Even though my resume is super impressive. It's not that impressive. But I have this crazy idea. Just let me know if you agree that this song is a stretch, but I'm kind of a catch. There's something in me you might see. Something that benefits your company. Now you know I probably don't believe ya. When you write thank you and we'll get right back to ya.
Okay, we could listen to this forever.
Yeah. It goes on for 3 minutes. It's a really long song, but it's adorable. And the whole thing is she's singing "Hire Me," but it's gone viral. My prediction is she will be on Ellen and all these talk shows soon because it's so funny and well done. And but she had to be bold enough to go, okay, I'm going to put not only a video of myself in my cover, to send with my cover letter, but I'm going to sing a song with you.
Yeah. And I put the link in the chat, but I don't know if I did it right. So if I didn't do it right, I will
I'll share it.
With the video after. So what do you think, Gina, we as business owners, what do we learn from from that?
Paige. Her name is Paige Kimna. And I think when I watched it, I just thought, first of all, how awesome, number one, that she has a great voice. But number two, even if she didn't, it was so clever. It was so different and it was refreshing. And I thought, you know, in business, sometimes we're afraid to be too out there and too different because, I mean, people are going to say, you know, okay, that was really weird that you sang your message, or that's really weird that you did that kind of video, or that you're doing a Facebook Live with wine and, you know, whatever in your pajamas. You know, there's people that are going to always say something and criticize us. However, to be bold enough to say, I don't really care. I want to get my message out in a way that's very different. So I think as businesses, we could learn from that.
Yeah, I will put, I know there are people saying I can't see the link. I put it up there, but that's too long. So I will put it at the end of the program when it's live. Gina, unless you can figure out how to.
Yeah, I can do it from, I'll go to Facebook and do it.
Okay. And so I wanted to talk about something else that I thought was really courageous this week. And sometimes when the situation, when the royal proverbial whatever hits the fan, we need to be courageous. So I'm gonna show my screen one more time and show you this. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but Kentucky Fried Chicken in the UK switched suppliers, delivery people, and ran out of chicken.
Oh yeah,
and it was a mess. People were so unhappy. There were viral videos. One customer actually said, I actually had to go to Burger King, at which point Burger King joined the conversation and offered to give them free hamburgers for a year. But that's not the point. The point is look at what Kentucky Fried Chicken did. Like, that's an outrageously courageous step. It got noticed. I mean, the fact that they even played with their logo to say they were sorry is really, really, and you got to think that somebody somewhere was going before they launched this. Should we?
This might be really risky.
And that's the leap of faith. And it's like the Tide commercial that the Super Bowl Tide commercial we talked about a couple of weeks ago. I'm sure somebody was sitting in a room going, really? We're really going to do this? We are going to totally do something outrageously courageous. So I think all of us need to, in certain circumstances, just make sure that we are ready to be courageous. And so I think it might be fun to talk about what areas of our lives and our businesses we need to be more courageous in.
Well, and I'll share a story that I shared. Let's see, it must have been on one of my, it was in a thing I did in our DIY social group, because we got to talking about what's the craziest things we've done to market our business. And I talked about the time I did reverse shoplifting, and when I was trying to get my book out, and it was on Amazon and it was in some local book stores in Colorado, but I was trying to get Barnes & Noble to pick it up. And they hadn't yet carried my book in the distributor chain. So I brought a few of my books and I walked into Barnes & Noble and I reversed shoplift. I put them on the shelf, and then I took one of them and I went up to the counter as if to buy it. And I put the book there and they scan it and it doesn't come up as in their system. And so she scanned it. She said, that's really weird. I don't even have this in my system, but of course they're going to sell it to me. So she had to enter it into their system, the ISBN number. And then I did get another order for it, but I left two of them on the shelf, faced out, of course. And I bought my own book. Now that was something that was, I don't know why I was worried. Like, okay, am I going to get in trouble for putting books in a store? But, you know, there was that kind of feeling of, I think I could get in trouble for this, but I did it anyway. And so that's, you know, you think of little things you can do. That wasn't a big leap of faith, but it was just something bold and audacious to do. So I think sometimes in our business, maybe those are the little things we have to do to stretch that muscle so that we can do bigger things.
But see, here's the thing, Gina, and maybe even on this call, there are people thinking, like, that's nuts. That's
it was nuts.
What you did. That was so courageous what you did. I mean, I'm a fairly courageous person. I'm not sure I would walk into a bookstore and put my book on the shelf. Like,
yeah, I put it on there. And now here's a tip. If anybody wants to try this, don't pay for your book with your credit card. Then they'll see the author and they'll see your name and they match, your cover's blown. So
good.
You have to pay for it with cash. But yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things that looking at how do I overcome. That's why I was saying adversity or obstacles, or maybe it's just, I want to do something. I mean, KFC, we want to get a message out there. How do we do that? How do you get creative and do that in a way that's really bold in our business? I'd love to hear if anybody's done like something crazy bold in their business with even taking on new, new parts of your business, new services that you offer. Sometimes that's a big risk.
I read a story this week about Rag and Bone. And for people who don't know it, it's a fashion brand. And what I thought was really interesting is they've decided to not do fashion shows anymore. Okay, now you got to think that a fashion brand who's decided not to do fashion shows anymore and to market their clothes in a different way, that's an incredibly, for me, outrageously courageous move. And
right.
So the question that I ask myself then is, what do we take for granted in our businesses? What are the touch point opportunities that we're just all supposed to be doing? And what would it take to not do them? Like how much courage would it take? Now, obviously, Rag and Bone has a plan. They do these wonderful marketing films and stuff. So it's not like they stopped marketing, but how do you do the unexpected in all of our different industries? Now, I'm a speaker. I suppose deciding not to speak would not be good for my bank account.
But what if it was deciding not to go on the road and speak?
Yeah,
what if it was deciding? Yeah, and so there are some big bold, which is a bold move for revenue.
Yes,
but it could be that there's reasons that are greater that you have to make those kind of decisions.
And I also think values can drive those decisions. I remember when I started in the business, I was a single mom with 2 kids, and I turned down a lot of work just because it took me away from my kids. So other people say that was very courageous. I say that was just the way it was.
Decisions, right, based on your decisions. And I think sometimes when you're wanting to start a new business, or maybe it's a brand that's wanting to start a new line in their business, you can just jump out there and do it. But, obviously you want to take calculated risks. So you have to do your planning, but then there's still a point when you do all the planning, you have all the knowledge, you have all the information, that you just have to draw the line in the sand and say, this is the day I do it. And, and
so I'd love to hear from the people who are listening. What do you, when you think about your business right now, and is there any part of it, or even in your life, is there any step you're not taking right now because for some reason you feel afraid?
Or did you let go? Because here's something, a couple years ago, I had to let go of a piece of business that was a big chunk of revenue, but it was so draining on us, our whole team, that I knew a smart thing to do, but it was a scary decision to make. And it had some big implications. So sometimes it's things we had to let go of.
Absolutely. Jim says, with our trade shows, without printed brochures, we only hand out cards with our web address. We let people know at the show that 99% of the brochures end up in the garbage, wasteful, bad for the environment. People like it. I bet they do, Jim, and I bet that really makes you stand out. I think that's awesome. That's awesome. So where else?
Yeah, I love that.
Where in your business are you just not feeling like we're launching an online program in the next couple of months? I'm freaking terrified. Like, it's a huge, for some people, it would not be a leap of faith. For me, it's a huge leap of faith. So
well, and I think it's a leap of faith because it's a lot of work that you're investing. The fears that I think of when I think of launches, there's a fear of, okay, if it doesn't go well, is that embarrassing? There's a fear if it doesn't go well, is that a waste of my time?
Yes.
And it was interesting because somebody that I did an interview with this week, he talked about he started his business 14 years ago and, his business is $44 million now a year. But he said, when you first start, you have to look at the long horizon, because so many times we launch something like a program and we think, okay, I'll give it, 3 months. If it doesn't work, okay, we can it. We give it 6 months, or if this product doesn't sell. But if you look at it and say, okay, I need to give this the long horizon, because I have the courage to make the jump right now, but do I have the courage to deal with and tweak and fix and keep working it until it's successful?
Yeah.
I think too many times we give up too early on new ideas.
This is great. Elen says, I'm declaring that by the end of 2018, I will leave to do my research in the Pacific Islands. Yay! Woo! And I do not have the income to do it. I feel I need courage to declare, but I know that by doing so and by setting a date. Absolutely, Elen. Yeah. Sometimes we just need to put those bold goals out there and let people know that we're committed to doing them. And sometimes I think what's also really interesting is if we are hesitating, which is why I asked what might some people be hesitating with, is we have to sit down and figure out why. I mean, there is a reason. If we're dragging our feet, there's a reason we're dragging our feet.
But I also think by putting it out there, it starts making it real.
Absolutely.
It starts making it happen. You start telling people. It's like saying, I'm a writer, I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a this. When you make those bold statements, you start behaving differently, and you start setting your goals and priorities every day differently. You make the time to do the things that you said by the end of 2018, I'm going to do this. So what does that mean today that I have to do? So I think that's a huge step, is putting it out there in public. That you're going to do something is helpful, because I look at, Toni, what does it take when you're working with companies and they're talking about making these bold, courageous, they have to let go of things that are happening now. They have to start doing things different. What do they need to do to actually help people make that leap?
Well, are you asking in our case?
No. And I mean, what advice would you give to yourself? Like, what do you have to do? Because you are at this point of, I need to have the courage to do it, make the leap. So what needs to happen so that every day you keep moving in that direction?
I think it's for me and for our clients, it's the cost of lost opportunity. I mean, that sounds very kind of left brainish, but if I ask myself, so this book I've been writing for, 186 years, and I've had people say, well, then just don't write it. And I say, I can't not write it. I couldn't live with myself if I not write it. If I not write it, if I not write book, I not be able to live with me.
Me not happy. Me no happy.
Not happy. Me not happy. So I think it's those things, and it's like, could I live with the loss of the opportunity if I don't do this? And if the answer is yes, then it's not important enough. Right. Get rid of that sucker. But if you're thinking, oh, for whatever reason, emotionally or financially or for business-wise, this is an experience I really want to have, even though I'm terrified, then you got to pull yourself together and do it. And so for our clients, it's very much the cost of lost opportunity. If they don't stand out in the marketplace, and if they don't figure out a way to be different about how they talk about their brand, then they're going to lose business.
Which that's a big motivator. So that's one piece that I look at and say, okay, that would help motivate me to, okay, we have to make this happen. Still scary. It still is going to take courage to do. And then I think it's just every day. And maybe, especially when you're working with a team, it's every day having those conversations. Like, this is normal. Yes. It's normal for us to feel nervous, scared, whatever the feelings are that we're feeling, that to make people okay with that. And like, this is a normal experience.
Yeah.
I think all of us have it.
It's not really a choice. I mean, Heidi is saying, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? And somebody else asked me the other day, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And, those questions are out there. The reality is we can fail, and we are sometimes afraid. So the question is, how do we deal with those?
Well, it's interesting. Yesterday I was in a conversation with somebody. We were talking about the cost of failures and looking over our careers. what has been the cost of some of our failures? And then we said, what if, let's say that we said, okay, the cost, I lost $40,000 in this one thing that we thought we were going to go down this direction. It was a $40,000 failure. But I said, what if somebody told you, okay, do you want to get a master's degree in successful entrepreneurship? And I told you that master's degree was going to cost you $60,000. And which is still low when you look at getting a master's degree in the States. So you look at it and go, would you say over a 4-year period, I would invest that to get my master's degree in something? And many people say yes. So why is it when we have these failures that cost money, we see it as the end of the world instead of that was a lesson that I paid $40,000 to learn, but I guarantee I won't make that mistake again.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't have even called that a failure.
Well, yeah, but that's what I mean. If we look at it different, in our business, we tend to look at things like I lost money or I lost this, instead of saying, look at what you learned in trying that. And along the way, I met some really important people that may play a role down the line somewhere else. But, you know,
it's all part of the journey. We
have to reposition the word failure in our vocabulary, because launching this program for you, what is it that we fear? Well, we fear failure in this. But what if we knew there was going to be failure points that we would have to learn and tweak to get to the other side? What if we knew there was failure ahead, but we still had to make the jump because we knew we had to fail a couple times to get to where we need to go? I don't know.
I think when I think about the online programming, it's 2:30 now. I'm not afraid of failure. I am actually rarely afraid of failure. I think the echo is when I maybe get too close to the computer. I think that's maybe what happens. I get excited and I lean in.
It's your excitement.
All of a sudden everything goes nuts. But yeah, I think at least for me, and I know for a lot of people who are entrepreneurs, failure is part of the journey. It doesn't mean that it doesn't suck while you're there, but so we've gone from courage to being outrageously courageous to failure, and hopefully back
to
being courageous.
Well, don't you think after any leap that you went through, whether there was failure involved or not, you have more courage for the next time?
Absolutely. You have more courage because you have more experience.
Right.
And you know you can deal with it, whatever it was and whatever it will be. And then, of course, there are people out there like Heidi who are dealing with a whole other level of courage. So we can't really speak to that. But I think we learn and we grow, and that little thing inside of us gets just a little stronger, and then it's not so hard to take the leap of faith the next time because you know you'll survive.
Right. Like we always laugh and say, I can do hard things. Yes. And after you do a hard thing, the next time you go, I know I can survive this because I survived that hard thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, it is 2:30, even a couple of minutes after. So this has been an awesome show. This might be one of my favorites ever. This is great. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Gina, you did post the link. I saw it go by of the crazy singing
resume cover letter girl page.
Yes. And thank you everybody. I see so many familiar faces, and thank you for dropping by and me happy. Me happy. and we will see you next week. Have a great weekend and we'll see you next week on Time.
Wind Down.
Wind Down.
Time to wind down. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Bye, everybody.